my name is Grace Mann. This is my persuasive speech on air pollution around the world. Imagine you live in New Delhi, the most populated city in the world, and you're walking to work with your throat burning and your eyes burning and squinted, and you have a mask over your face because of all the smog in the sky. There's no escape from these harmful toxins, and the only thing you hope for is some rain or wind to brush the particles somewhere else. Winter was especially bad in New Delhi, and residents were breathing in air quality that was equivalent to smoking nearly 50 cigarettes a day. Policies are pretty strong in the US and Canada on clean air. For example, the Clean Air Act sets regulations on businesses and pushing them to use new technologies to release the least amount of toxins into the sky that's possible. But countries like India and China that are major in manufacturing need the most help of all. Their governments have hardly any regulation on clean air acts or emissions, and health issues are a major downside of air pollution. It can cause heart disease, lung cancer, stroke, and respiratory diseases that are chronic or acute. Here you can see black lungs that are from breathing in air pollution or smoking, which is the equivalent. And right here you can see how asthma is caused, and it tightens the valves in your lungs so it's harder to breathe. And then here you can see people of New Delhi actually with covered faces because their throat is burning. And not only does it cause health issues, but it also causes acid rain and a depletion of our ozone. And you can see here birds die when they breathe in that air and fly through the smog. Acid rain kills the forests, and it also goes into the river systems and kills fish and aquatic life. A major policy change is definitely needed for this problem. Canada is actually using hydroelectric power in most of their energy. In one article, 60% of their renewable hydroelectric power is used out of all of the energy in Canada, and it's the most efficient in the world. So Canada's doing great on that, and they're very conscious about the consequences of what they manufacture. This quote says, "The amount of air pollution and carbon emissions that Canadian hydropower has avoided over time is almost incalculable." So, obviously, not all countries are able, with their resources or their money, to use renewable energy sources because they're very expensive, but donations from other countries, plus just a little more effort from these third world countries, could make the air quality so much better. The cost is very expensive at first to install and use renewable resources for renewable energy, but over the period of a few years it pays off, and then businesses and everyone will end up profiting from it and saving a lot of money. So it's just taking those first steps that really matters. Some other policy changes and restrictions have been limits on driving. For example, in New Delhi, only cars were allowed to drive on the roads from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And on certain days, even in odd license plate numbers on cars were allowed to drive. This helped probably some in reducing the air particles. And China is actually producing a lot of technology, like their giant air purifier, as you can see here. This quote says the average reduction in PM 2.5, the fine particles in smog deemed most harmful to health, fell 15% during heavy pollution. And this seems minor, but it's actually a big deal because it could mean the difference between a kid suffering from major asthma and just some coughs. So 15% is pretty significant. On the flip side, limiting businesses and what they can do is bad for business. No matter what other people say, it definitely is. It causes delay in production, and it also is a hassle to businesses. It makes owners and employees lose money, and it makes other people lose jobs. And you can see here, this is the price of goods going up because of less production, people losing their jobs, and overall business going down. Restrictions haven't always worked around the world on certain places. Legal air pollution limits for the entire year were broken in the capital just 5 days into 2017 in the UK. That's pretty bad. Imagine how much pollution they produce a year. While air pollution emissions are very hard to control, it's also very important that we preserve our world and our environment. Not only do we live here, but also all the plants and animals and our future generations to come. So environmentalists have been calling for changes limiting carbon and other emissions constantly. They still are, and until business owners can start thinking more about where they live and where everything lives and not the money as much, we won't get anywhere. Because the cleanliness of our world far outdoes the amount of money that anyone could ever have. Thank you.